Welcome back to the program. Let's bring you up to speed. Banks dump about 980 billion naira worth of treasury bills on the central bank yesterday as illiquidity shorts call money to 32%. We've seen average overnight rates around 50%. Meanwhile, banking stocks have been badly hit in Lagos and London and elsewhere on Monday as Brexit turmoil continues. Today, UK Prime Minister David Cameron is expected to have his last supper, as has been described, in Brussels alongside other European leaders. It will be the final meeting, face-to-face meeting, as it were, between David Cameron and his European counterparts after Brexit vote last Thursday. Naira was down about 40 on the US dollar on Monday. That's at the spot market, week after the new FX market begins, and the central bank FMDQ launched the OTC FX futures on Monday. That's getting started. Now, of course, the second quarter ends this week. The finance minister confirmed just about 110 billion naira so far been released for capital projects, but public procurement process delaying further disbursements. Consult was once a blue-chip company of the Nigerian Stock Exchange in the early 2000s. It's been almost 20 years down the line that this company has gone nearly insolvent. But the company says it's a new direction for the salt company that is now making a U-turn. Let's bring in the man who's been part of the resurrection team for Union Consult, bringing it back to life. From a new direction, let's bring in Chuka Modi, who is the Managing Director and Chief Executive, to talk to us. Of course, today we expect the 2015 financials of Union Consult to be released by the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That's most likely going to show the red. When will the green numbers be coming through? Chuka, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very
Looks
much.
like you, resurrection is your specialty?
You said U-turn. I don't want to say U-turn. I want to say different strategic direction.
Okay, a new direction.
Yes, a new direction. I think we're certainly diversifying the company, as the announcements made by the Ministry of Agriculture last week. We're diversifying to the agro-business space and fast-moving consumer goods. The fast-moving consumer goods are based on the agricultural businesses that we're invested in Nigeria. So we're invested in primary commodities and along the entire value chain of the commodities that we're invested in.
You were handed a dead company, technically speaking.
It was not in the best condition. It was true. That's a very, very, very fair point. But I think Union Dicon, along with the economic ups and downs of Nigeria at the time, it was
amazing. How were the stocks selling close to 20 naira when it was listed?
Yes, well, there have been some announcements that have come out that I think have driven the price going forward. The first announcement we made a month and a half ago, I think, drove volume significantly. But I think it was very helpful that in the last 6 years, there were a significant amount of SEC fines we paid off. It was
because there were no financials released.
Yes,
there were no financial statements to the SEC, to the stock exchange.
Yes,
earnings statements with the CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission, as well.
Yeah, so that was over a period of 6 years. So as of year-end 2015. We brought everything up to date. We did our filings with SEC, brought our filings with the CAC up to date, paid our listing fees, brought our filings with the stock exchange up to date. So I think there was a significant amount of progress on the operational side and the administrative side. And on the regulatory side, which is what we had to get fixed in parallel with actually fixing the company from an operational perspective. So I think it was the market probably reacted to the fact that after a 6-year period of not reporting, we brought everything up to date. And by close of business today, we should be fully up to date with year-end 2015 results.
To talk to us about the turnaround of an insolvent company, what the executive management was, what about the board? I'm sure things have changed over almost 20 years of Union Consult. I'm sure there have been a lot of board changes, management changes, and new set of folks always trying to come on board and revitalize this very salt company.
I think primarily rebuilding a company is about rebuilding capacity, and that was what was lacking in the last 7-8 years of Union Consult. However, there haven't been significant changes on the board. We joined the board. We've been helped immensely by the current board we have. General T.Y. Danjuma is still the chairman of the board, and he's been very, very helpful in sort of navigating the aspects of corporate Nigeria.
He's been there since the beginning.
Yes, he has. So he's seen Union Dicon go from one
boom to bust,
and hopefully back to boom again in the short to medium term. So it's been an exciting, I'd say very exciting exercise, but I think we're coming to the culmination of that exercise. On the 11th of July, next month, we should be doing an event in the Nigerian Stock Exchange, which is the facts behind the restructuring, where we're given the facts, the figures, the numbers, and the operational aspects behind restructuring Union Dye Consult. So hopefully we'll have some very exciting news to report on that day, because it will be also time for our half-year results. And I think on our half-year results, 2016, there's going to be a very, very nice surprise for Union Dye shareholders.
Some tough questions for you. What did you clean up on the balance sheet?
Well, essentially, there were significant items. There was litigation from past suppliers that was never actually fully resolved because...
In terms of electricity?
No, litigation from past suppliers.
Okay, suppliers, whether you're getting the raw salt.
Yes, exactly. Yes. There were incidences in dispute between former employees and the company, and I think because there was significant lack of capacity and a gap in management, nothing was being done about those things, and those all had to be resolved as we resolved aspects of the trading and diversifying the company's income stream. I think the major aspect was we had to move away from being an income generative on just one line of production. And so we moved from just one item to multi-focused,
So basically you were hit by competition. The company was hit by competition. Competition was stiff as far as salt business was concerned.
Yes, but that said, the salt business is not a business of fantastic margins anyway, and that's why the main focus of our operational move was to diversify the company into a variety of income streams. So now we're doing commodities. We're starting with cassava, and we're going all the way up the cassava value chain. So in the medium term, we're doing cassava starch, which is import substitution driven, so it earns forex. And then along the value chain, we're moving from there ultimately to fructose, glucose, maltose, and sweeteners.
Well, hold on a second. You shouldn't be talking about being a salt company anymore. What's in the name? You can be a salt company and you're doing cassava.
What's in the name? It's simply a name.
No, there's a lot in the name.
Berkshire Hathaway was a cotton gin milling company. And I think the name is immaterial in terms of what we do.
Again, because you have shareholders. Now you've got shareholders and non-shareholders like myself who was out there. We look at the counter on the stock exchange and I see Union Dye Consult, and I said, okay, this is a salt company perhaps competing with Dangote Salt, with NASCON and the rest of them. Whereas you're into the Agric value chain, you want to do commodities. So what are you going to do about the name change? Has this been discussed at the board level?
Yes, it has been discussed, but ultimately it's a decision. It's a consensual decision between shareholders and management, and I think we can resolve that issue in a very, very non-contentious
How often are you holding another shareholders meeting since things had been lackluster, to put it very mildly, for 5 years, 6 years?
Well, thankfully we brought things up to date. We had an AGM. We will make the announcement for our next AGM this week, and I expect that will be within the next calendar month.
You expect shareholders to be angry with you, or to say, oh, hold on a second, what are we still doing here?
I think at the next AGM we expect shareholders to be fulfilled.
Really?
Finally. Yes. I think it's been a long time coming. There's finally light at the end of the Union Dye tunnel, to use a hackneyed cliche, but I think we promised that whatever the case, we would bring capital growth to Union Dye stock, and we would pay Union Dye shareholders dividends. And I think we are on course to fulfill that.
Well, why do you think agriculture is the new oil?
I don't want to say agriculture is the new oil, but, you know, it's a cliche, and there's always some truth in most cliches. But I think what we had was a sector that was not exploited as optimally as it could be exploited. I think we are still a food importing company, food importing country, which means there's a significant gap to be exploited. And not just from an entirely mercenary perspective, because I think, you know, people must eat, so they've got to eat. But, you know, Nigeria has a lot of arable land that is not being exploited in an optimal fashion. And it is renewable, so you plant every season. Oil is not renewable. And I think, so to describe it as a new oil is probably a misnomer to some degree, because I think the scale of the opportunity is much, much, much wider in terms of the fact that we import chicken, we import rice, we import most commodities, and we import most processed foods, which could be processed in Nigeria. So I think seeing that import substitution gap, that we import these things, we have the capacity to actually generate these things locally. I mean, one could take two views of a glass as half full or half empty. We tend to take the optimistic view that the glass is half, you know, full, and we can fill it up even more.
You're stepping into another market with very strong competition. I hope you know what you're doing.
I like to think we do.
I hope you've counted the costs.
I like
because you're heading into another terrain with the big boys?
We've managed to earn the
Already on
confidence
the block.
We've managed to earn the confidence of people that have joined us in our current operations, and we're expanding with. And I don't think of it as competition. I think more of it as, a growth in the market. Nigeria, in my view, has space for 10 more Dangotes. We're an economy that is performing at a very, very suboptimal rate, and it could increase significantly. I see no reason why we should not be generating double-digit growth in Nigeria. And I think with what we're doing in terms of growing food, in terms of growing the economy, if there's, I think, cooperation from a policy-making perspective from the government and private sector enterprise like us, the multiplier effect could be incredible. Economic growth could be very, very, very significant. And, like I said, I take the optimistic view that, one goes into business with a view to creating value for shareholders, and that's what we're going to do.
It's an industry, Agric value chain. So what would you be looking at from the side of the government to help, well, like you say, 10 more Dangotes and others in this drive?
So there was the announcements by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture last week on the Kogi State's staple crop processing zone.
How did I forget? You are my state, so what are you doing there?
Yes, what are we doing there?
That's my home state.
On 30,000 hectares of cassava, we supported, it's a project supported by the World Bank, and it was instituted by the last Minister of Agriculture, but being pushed very hard by the current Agriculture Minister, Chief Audu Ogbe. And we're planting cassava. I believe Dangote Industries are also in the staple crop processing zone. So it's about building a cluster of industrial production around commodities and growing that cluster in order to generate significant the multiplier effect and economic growth in that region.
Okay, Chuka, I guess we got to leave it at that for now.
Well,
just in case, if I find you in Kogi State, perhaps you just be behind my family house.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Chuka Modi, Managing Director at Union Consult. We'll be back in 2. We'll talk to Wale Lucy from Afrinvest to bring us up to speed with the rest of the marketplace.